saw a video recently that got me to thinking because people always talk about stockpiling, but she's a family of three right now. She's retired or close to retired, so most of her kids are grown. If she had any kids, it was At Home with Lynn Wilson, I believe is the name of her channel. Yes, At Home with Lynn Wilson, Everyday Living. She is a very good YouTuber. This will be a couple months, at least a couple months after, well, probably more like 3 months or more after I finished watching, because she was using the example of 25-pound bags flour that her, well, less than that, but it was way bigger than a 5-pound bag. So it might have been a 15-pound bag, a 20-pound bag, because they come in varieties. But anyway, it was a huge bag. It was more than she'd ever used. And long story short, she wound up throwing away some of it. And I got to thinking about some things you shouldn't store long term. Now, keep in mind, if you have a family of 7 or 8, like she was talking about, that's way different than having a family of 1. So, something that I would go through very slowly, you might go through very quickly, or you might eat 2 bowls of oatmeal every day for breakfast, like you and your spouse, or you and your child, or whatever. So and occasionally for a lunch or a dinner, like on weekends. You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about you and your life, But dairy usually isn't a good idea unless you freeze it. But even then, it's like cheese will only last in the freezer like 6 months, I believe, is the general idea there. But and eggs you can freeze, but that I think my sister said about a year they'll last. In the freezer, if that long. At least the way she does it, because there's several different ways you can do it. She stirs them up like you're going to scramble them, but she doesn't actually scramble them, if that makes sense. Milk you can freeze up to a month or two, but if you're just a family of 1, you don't really need to do that. Just go out and buy you a half a gallon of milk or a gallon of milk, whatever you use. Bread, it will stale real easy. I personally keep mine in a refrigerator, but it doesn't really last that long either. So don't buy 3 or 4 loaves. The exception being the pita bread. You can keep it in the freezer or the refrigerator almost indefinitely, but they will get tough. They get a little bit tough, and you'll have to soften them up some way. But at least they won't hurt you. And it'll still have a lot of vitamins and stuff. It did. If you have a freezer full of like frozen foods, be careful. Like where we live, where me and my sister live, we live next door. The power is usually almost always on the very next day. I mean, at the very latest. Like it usually isn't out for more than an hour or 2, so we don't have that worry. But someone I know, she lives further out, and in like a week, sometimes it goes out for like a week. So that's hundreds of dollars worth of food you have to throw away, because you don't want to risk food poisoning, right? Um, um, you can can the meat so that it's shelf stable for a long time, especially if you know some kind of storm's coming soon. Um, don't store a lot of comfort foods, cheap comfort foods like macaroni and cheese and stuff, because in a bad situation, you want to have foods that are high in nutrition. But I do have at least a few of all of those items, like shells and cheese with the, um, not the powder stuff, but the other, uh, like where you don't have to add milk and butter. And I have some of the powder as well, but I don't have like a 6 month supply. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I usually tell my sister if I've gotten like 8 or 10 of them, I'll say, "Do you need some of these? Whatever, so it doesn't go bad." And we're blessed enough to have a food donation center um, right across the road from us, literally. And pre-pandemic they helped us a lot, so we have given it to them a few times. Um, because pre-pandemic I was in a really bad spot. Um, so, some people think people don't appreciate that stuff, and some people don't, but some of us really appreciate it. Like my dad, he worked hard all his life from the time he was 4 or 5 years old. I mean, he grew up during the Great Depression. That was coming back then. You had to. And a lot of times, instead of hiring a grown man, they'd hire a little boy for a quarter a day. But that'd be enough to buy something to eat, and usually you had a place that you wasn't renting around here, because most people couldn't afford rent. But luckily, I'm pretty sure they owned a place. But you still had a light bill or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So they had bills, is what I'm saying. Um, Dry goods with expiration dates. Now, keep in mind, this is for like 2 years. Um, I go through mine regularly and I use it, because a lot of dry goods do have long shelf lives, but there's a lot of them that doesn't. So, uh, if it's stuff that for a year from now, think before you get 8 of them. Well, how many will I use within the next year? Because it's only a bargain price if you're going to use it the next little while. Um, um, you gotta be careful with things like flour, because they can attract bugs and flour mites and stuff like that. Processed oats. I use instant or old fashioned. I don't really use steel cut, but um, I use them in a fair amount of time, because my sister and we do buy food separate, but like sometimes she'll give me something or I'll give her something, because like she her son lives with her right now. She has 2 grandbabies that visit a lot. Sometimes her daughter comes by. That's the mom of the grandbabies. Sometimes her daughter's fiance comes by for a little while. Things like that. Sometimes we have holiday meals, things like that. And not just major holidays. Sometimes we'll have like a cookout or something. Fresh produce usually doesn't last long. I mean, it'll last a couple of weeks, something like that, but usually it doesn't last forever. And I know you're not supposed to, but I keep potatoes in the refrigerator. They last longer, because I buy 10, 15 pound bags. I don't buy the 5 pound bags, but I don't buy the 50 pound bags either. And this is another example where it comes in handy. Mom bought 50 pound bags all the time. There was 3 teenage boys. There was a grown man that ate a lot of calories because he worked hard, hard body, hard physical labor jobs, you know what I'm saying? So, and then there was me and my sister and her, and sometimes, a neighbor might eat or something, which was rare because they knew we were poor. But, you know, so she got 50-pound bags, but guess what? It'd be gone. You know what I'm saying? It'd be gone in like a week or a few weeks, Um, but me and my sister, that would be like a lifetime supply because, yes, she has the people I just mentioned, but they don't eat with her every day. You know what I'm saying? And one of my great nieces, which is one of her grandchildren, has a food allergy, so some foods she can't even eat, like peanut butter and eggs. She can't be in the room when you crack an egg. Now she can eat like cornbread and stuff like that just has an egg cooked in it for some reason, but something about a raw egg or just a scrambled up egg or fried egg, she can't eat those either. But she can eat foods that just have like one egg for the whole, like a cake mix or something that calls for 1 or 2 eggs, she can eat. But if it has a lot of eggs in it or it's just egg, she can't eat it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know how much sense that makes. And that's not her only allergy. So, but like, we don't have a huge need for potatoes, and they don't eat a lot. They're preteen. I think one of them just turned 13 or is about to turn 13 or something. But neither one of them would eat enough for us to get a 50-pound bag. But that might be great for you and your family. You know what I'm saying? Foods you don't already eat. Especially if you don't know what they taste like, or you think, well, in a bind I'll eat these. I'm not saying don't buy something on sale to try it. I'm saying buy 1 or 2. Because if you buy one, because usually you don't hate something so bad you can't eat 1 or 2 of it. And you can always give a friend one if you're like, this was so disgusting, I'm not even going to prepare the other box or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But if you buy 8 of something, well, now you've got to decide whether to give it to the food bank because, or, to friends or whatever. But, I do always have some water on hand, and I do have flavor packets, but if I was in a survival situation, I would just drink the water. And things like pop will go flat, so don't buy a 6-month supply. You know what I'm saying? Um, so this is things to at least hesitate about prepping because your life and your situation might be different. 25-pound bag of flour you might be able to use in a few weeks if you have, you know, uh, your son just lost his job, and so your son and daughter-in-law's living with you, and they've got 3 kids, and your daughter, who's college age, was already living with you because she hasn't found a job yet, but although she is looking, you know what I'm saying. So now you and your husband, just as an example, have all of a sudden have 10 people in your household, and your daughter and your daughter-in-law help you cook. So you have to have enough food for 10 people all of a sudden, and all of a sudden you can make breads, and you can make your own cake mixes, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with flour. So all of a sudden it's a good idea. You know what I'm saying? But for long-term storage, it still wouldn't be a good idea. And there are exceptions. There are ways that you can do it if you want to. But flour is something that's usually easy to find and easy to buy, even in the worst of situations. And it is something in a survival situation you can live without, or you can use a replacement thing. In fact, they did that a lot in the Great Depression. You might want to look that up, things that you can use in a recipe instead of a flour. Like my 3-ingredient peanut butter cookies, the reason why it was even made was there wasn't a lot of flour during the Great Depression for a lot of reasons, and that you didn't want to attract boll weevils and stuff. And this was before there was a lot of the modern technology we have today, so they didn't have the storage options we do. And so there's a lot of recipes that you can make without flour. You may have to add a little bit more or something else. You may have to cook it a little bit longer. It depends a lot on the recipe. A lot of times you can just not eat that particular food, even though it's one of your favorites. You'll enjoy it more when a crisis is over. But because I won't lie, me and my sister were scared when the pandemic first came, because we were unsure, and we were both have been in fairly bad positions before then. I got $16 in food stamps at the time, and I'm getting more now. But it was very hard at one point. And my state still has full EBT benefits for now. This is the very last month, and to be honest, it does need to end. The food banks are getting business again, but they have plenty of food. Ours does. Some others nationwide are struggling, but ours is okay. I get a healthy food benefit card, and thank God for it. That's helped me a lot. And the reason why I want to do this is you get a lot of videos telling you what to stock, and those are very helpful. And I mentioned totally different foods than Lynn Wilson did, because what works for her, and she even said this in her video, and I agree, what works for one family won't for another, and vice versa. And some of them that she's decided not to stockpile at all, I talked about stockpiling for a couple of months or 3. But again, totally different situation. It wouldn't work. And maybe she meant short term, like I always have 3 or 4 boxes. You know what I'm saying? But it's not. We both agree it's not a 2-year thing. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to find what works for you. But those were foods, and I may do a follow up with. It'll be a little while, but I may do one for foods that can be stored for years. Those are what you want to put in your survival pantry. And I'll be honest, I don't really have a survival pantry, because I'll be honest with you, if something ever happens to where I have to worry about more than 2 years, I'm not even sure I want to survive it. If I was 20, I would definitely want to survive it. If I was 80, I'd probably be like, I'm old anyway, just shoot me and get it over with. But I'm in my 40s. I don't have children. I never could have them, even if I'd wanted them. But I always had a lot of children in my life, and I took care of my mom, and I worked some of those years that I took care of her. But I'll be honest, there's no way I could have with a family. there's no way I could have been worked. She would have wound up in a nursing home. But, and she'd always told me if she was ever out of her mind that she, like with Alzheimer's or something, she wanted to be put in a nursing home. But the reason why she said that was because of her mom had developed Alzheimer's and hated living in a nursing home. But anyway, I digress. Basically, I want to do this because you hear a lot about stockpile this, stockpile that, and a lot of times they don't go into the ins and outs of it. Like, if you have a family of 8, like I just said, a 20-pound bag of flour probably be gone in a few weeks to a month. You don't even really need to worry about how to store it or anything like that. You use it, you know. But if you're a family of 2, you might want to give out some of that flour. And in this case, somebody had given her the flour, and she wound up throwing it away. And if she had thought, she could have probably given away some of it, like put it a little bit in little freezer bags and given to 40. You know, say she has a church of 40, giving each member flour if they want it. I don't think many people would get offended by that. I have friends that are more well-to-do than I am, and I don't think they would be offended by that. They might give it to somebody else, or they may say thank you, but they're not going to slap you in the face over it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just wanted to put out there the foods that you shouldn't store long term, because you don't hear so much about that. And I didn't want to make a over 20-minute video, but that's what it wound up being, you know. And I don't really see what I can take out of it, because I do think that there ought to be more resources like this, because a lot of us have learned the hard way, or know people that have learned the hard way. And some people aren't going to eat something if it don't taste as good as it does right now. But I'll be honest, I've got unopened bags of oatmeal that are like not flavored. But I've been in similar situations, and I can tell you from experience, I'll eat it. I'll add sugar and I'll add butter, because sugar and butter, even like during the Great Depression, people had that. And, you know, it's not something I think I'll ever be without. And if I'm ever that down, I probably will just not want to live anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to live like through the zombie apocalypse, you know, like the Walking Dead or whatever. If things are that bad, I don't want to survive it. Now, like I've said before, if I was 25, I would feel different. If I was 15, I would feel different. I would probably feel even more strongly if I was 70. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion on what you should stockpile and what you shouldn't. I don't think I've done a video on stockpile versus hoarding, but there's many out there. Stockpiling is where you go through and you use it, and you don't have more than you'll use in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying. Like, me and my sister just went shopping recently, so we have a freezer full of meat, so we're not going to be buying meats probably this month. But her insurance blessed her with a one-time healthy food benefit. They said, and they may have changed their mind, but she didn't qualify before, at least with that particular insurance company. And each insurance company is different, so if you do check, they'll probably ask you different questions, like, do you have this issue, do you have that issue, and depending on what you say is how you qualify. And each insurance is different. They're working on it, because and some insurances you just get it if you're with that insurance and you get the particular type of insurance that offers that, like the dual programs. That's where you have Medicaid and Medicare both, meaning you worked at least some, and Medicaid, like, but, and I'll do some, and I'll probably do some more stockpiling videos. I'll be honest though, today's July 5th. I've got videos already out until like mid-October. So I probably won't be making a lot except for the Raw and SmackDown as I promised. I just now got through with the WWE Raw and that's why I'm doing this one. But I'll do the Raw and SmackDown, so you'll probably still get 5 videos a week. But I'll only be doing 2 a week. You see what I'm saying? And I might not even do every week. But I'm going to try and do every week because I promised that. But I probably won't be doing a lot of videos because it gets crazy hot. And so until probably the beginning to middle of September, when it starts cooling down, I probably won't be making a lot of videos. But I'll probably schedule a few stockpiling videos of different kinds, like what to stockpile for if you want a year to 2 year stockpile in case somebody loses their job or something, or if you actually want to survive the zombie apocalypse. Of course, not literally. I think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I think everybody knows what you mean by zombie apocalypse. But, it's things that'll last 5 to 10 years, and you'll at least keep breathing for the next day. Because I'll be honest, if there's ever a situation where the country or the world's going to be messed up for 10, 20 years, I've served my time. I'm in my close to mid-40s, not quite there yet, but pretty close. I'm in better health than I was in, but I'm still in very bad health. So I'd be probably more of a burden than a help, and so I feel like I've already contributed to society and what people would need then. And I'm not saying shoot people that are in poor health if they want to survive. You should try to help them survive. But in cases like that, you need strong people. You need people below a certain age. And again, I'm not saying kill grandma, but I'm saying you'll need some strong 20, 30-year-olds to rebuild a community. And I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. But I'm saying if it does happen, I don't want to survive it. Just to be honest with you. Just, we used to have a saying here in the South, just take me out behind the barn and shoot me like an old horse with a broken leg. So that's how I would feel if we ever had the quote-unquote zombie apocalypse survive. But I'll do videos for y'all because you might be a 25-year-old with 2 little kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old or something, and you might want to survive it. You know what I'm saying? Because every situation's different. But anyway, since this is getting 30 minutes, I quit rambling. But and I would redo it, but honestly, I still think it'd be a 20-minute video because I did want 10 foods, but instead of it being milk, it's dairy. You know what I mean? And so there's explanation that goes into that. and ways that you could store it if you needed to, and for how long and all of that, because I did want to be detailed with it. So that's 3 minutes per tip basically, so I don't think that was too bad, especially since it was probably more like 2.5 minutes, and then me rambling at the end. But anyway, goodbye. I hope you had a great day, and or will have a great day if this is morning for you. And I really hope you enjoy my videos, and thank you. Bye.